morning, dear students. This is your Sudha ma'am welcoming you to the second session of lesson 2, that is respiration, the energy releasing system. In our previous session, we studied about introduction to respiration, discovery of gases, and briefly about events in respiration. In this session, we are going to study about the first process, that is breathing, which covers the pathway of air and role of epiglottis in the process of respiration. Events or steps involved in respiration. There are 5 processes involved in respiration, that is 1. Breathing, 2. Gaseous exchange at lungs level, 3. Gas transport by blood, 4. Gaseous exchange at tissue level, and 5. Cellular respiration. Let us study one by one of these processes. The first one is breathing. As already discussed, the physical process which involves the exchange of gases is called breathing. We know that atmospheric air, which contains oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, hydrogen, helium and other gases, and water vapor, enters into our lungs. What does the exhale air contain? Exhale air, in addition to the other gases, it contains comparatively more amount of carbon dioxide and water vapor. How can we prove carbon dioxide and water vapor are released? To prove that, let us observe a small activity. Take 2 test tubes, one test tube with water and the other test tube with lime water, that is calcium hydroxide, and fix corks, glass pipes and rubber tubes as shown in the figure, and blow the air continuously. After some time, we can observe lime water has turned to milky. This proves that carbon dioxide is released during exhalation. We know that calcium hydroxide, that is CaOH twice, reacts with carbon dioxide and forms a precipitate, that is calcium carbonate CaCO3. We can also observe the fog, that is nothing but water vapor, in the second test tube. And the presence of water vapor we can prove in another way also, that is take a portable mirror and exhale air forcibly on the surface of the mirror. We can observe water vapor or fog on the surface of the mirror. This is due to the water vapor present in the exhale air, which condenses on the cool surface of the mirror. From these 2 instances, we can say that exhale air consists of carbon dioxide and water vapor. At this point, we need to study the pathway of air and mechanism of breathing in respiration to know how air reaches to alveoli or air sacs in the lungs and how it comes out of the lungs. So, let's move on to know the pathway of air. In humans, the air passes through the nostrils to alveoli in the following path: nostrils, nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchus, bronchioles, alveoli and blood. Let us discuss about nostrils. Air enters into our body through 2 openings called nostrils, which are situated at the base of the nose. From there, it enters into the nasal cavity. In the nasal cavity, air gets filtered. The air present here prevent the dust particles to enter inside. If at all, the fine dust particles and bacteria in the air are stick to the mucus present in the nasal cavity. Then the temperature of inhaled air is brought closer to that of the body temperature, and it takes up more water vapor and becomes more moist than before. The next one is pharynx. Then air goes to the common passage of digestive and respiratory system, that is pharynx. A flap-like valve, epiglottis, regulates the movement of the food to the esophagus and air to the trachea. And we will discuss the function of epiglottis in this session later. So, let's continue with the next part, that is larynx. This is a box-like structure which is made up of cartilage. It regulates the flow of air into our lungs. But the main function of the larynx is related to our speech. It contains vocal cords. When air passes out during exhalation, the vocal cords vibrates and produces sound. And this sound is changed into a speech or a song with the help of our palate, tongue, teeth, etc. Then trachea. This is also known as windpipe, which is a tube-like structure, and it passes air into the lungs. The rings of cartilage are present on the trachea, which prevent it from the collapsing during exhalation. Bronchus. At the lower end of the trachea, it divides into two branches called bronchi, and each bronchus enters into each lung. Bronchioles. Each bronchus is further divided into smaller and smaller branches in the lungs called bronchioles. So, the air reaches to bronchioles from bronchus. Alveoli. The bronchioles terminates into cluster of balloon-like structures called air sacs or alveoli in the lungs. These are very small and numerous, and these are the functional units of respiratory system. These are richly supplied with blood capillaries. Gaseous exchange takes place here by the process of diffusion. Blood capillaries take up oxygen from alveoli, and alveoli take up carbon dioxide from blood capillaries. Blood capillaries carries oxygen to each and every cell of the body and collects carbon dioxide from them. The carbon dioxide comes out in the same path vice versa, that is, blood capillaries to alveoli, to bronchioles, to bronchus, to trachea, larynx, pharynx, the nasal cavity, and expels out through nostrils. The air in this whole passage is moist and warm. In the passage of air, we need to discuss about the role of epiglottis. Food we eat after mastication goes to esophagus, then through pharynx, and the air which is inhaled also goes to the trachea through pharynx. So, pharynx is the common passage for both food and air. Here it is important that food should not enter into the trachea, which leads to lungs. This is properly regulated by a flap-like valve called epiglottis, which is located in the throat, behind the tongue, and in front of the larynx. This valve is partly closed when we swallow the food, which prevents the entry of food into the trachea. This epiglottis opens more widely when we take a breath and the air enters into the lungs. Nervous regulation is important in guiding the function of epiglottis and the passage of food and air. That is why we are not supposed to talk while eating food. If we talk while eating, epiglottis also moves up. Then food particles may enter the trachea. This irritates the respiratory tract and the lungs try to send out the particles with much force. This makes us to choke. Here we have to remember that food should not enter into the trachea or lungs. There is no enzymes to digest the food. So, it may lead to many problems. So, we should not talk while eating. So, dear students, today we have studied that carbon dioxide and water vapor are released during exhalation, which comes under topic breathing. Then about the pathway of air, and finally the role of epiglottis in the passage of air. That's all for today. Meet you in the next session. Thank you.